instituted the Chicago Standard. These new rules rewrite the standards by which public buildings are designed, built, and renovated, and aim to conserve energy and reduce operating costs.
There's a system called LEED, which is Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, and it's really a development of the U.S. Green Building Council, and it certifies how green buildings are. Using those strategies, we found that they work, and then the mayor went out and created a policy that said every new building in the city of Chicago that is built by the city or our sister agencies must be a LEED certified building.
Chicago Center for Green Technology is a two-story building, 34,000 square feet. It's a brick building that dates from the 1950s. It is a LEED Platinum rated building, which is the highest rating that LEED gives. It was the third such platinum building in the world when it was finished at that time. The anchor tenant was Spire Solar Chicago, and that's a business that manufactures photovoltaic solar cells here on site. The building itself was the first client of the output of this assembly line here in the building, and so the building has rooftop and ground-mounted 3 different types of photovoltaic cells that when the sun strikes them, they generate electricity. All of the stormwater on site flows to a detention pond. We put the geothermal heating and cooling system and the pipes for that system under the detention pond because it improves the efficiency of heat exchange by about 50%. So those two things, when we did our brainstorming session, seemed to make sense together. In terms of the design of the building, I can only say that everyone that works here loves it. The natural light is great, the materials are healthy, it just has a great vibe. It's one of those places you want to be, and so as an architect, it's hard not to be pretty happy with that.
I think the Environmental Center, again, signals the city's commitment to green architecture. It's a laboratory. It's a way to demonstrate, the importance of what green things can do.
At the time we conceived of the Chicago Center, I never would have imagined the impact it would have and the way in which the city of Chicago would back it and promote it and use it intensely. I was here for a greening fair last Saturday. Hundreds, maybe even 1,000 people toured the building, learned about what they could do in their homes. The city is just great at using it as a vehicle to promote a bigger agenda.
All 3 of these insulators have the same.
We really started with the creation of the Chicago Center for Green Technology. And so that was our kind of at first attempt to say, well, how can we really take the ideas embodied in the environmental features of the green roof on City Hall and try them holistically in a building? And what we really found is that many of these strategies are pretty straightforward. It's not rocket science. We can implement these strategies on many of our buildings.
If sustainable building practices make so much sense, why hasn't the private sector jumped in with both feet? Or with 1 foot, for that matter? For Chicago, it means staying the course, leading by example, and showing that the math works.
American developers don't want to pay the additional first costs, the upfront costs that green architecture requires. The tax laws and other things are structured such that they just don't see it as a good investment. But it is significant that the city is requiring public buildings, which it can control, to have green elements in them. That is a good first step.
There's always the perception that green building costs so much more. We're finding that cost is coming down considerably as we become more educated. The first couple projects, there's the kind of a steep learning curve with our own project managers. Now that we've done a few of them, that cost is coming down considerably because we know how LEED works. We know what the priorities are. We know what the opportunities are. The initial cost of constructing a building is really only about 10% of the overall cost of owning and operating that building over its life. And so that we as a city, as the owners and operators of that library or that police station or that fire station, over its 50 or 100-year life, we're going to be paying a lot more than that initial investment in the building.
When we came into this building from the old one, we were averaging 20 officers sick a day. Right now we're averaging about 12, which is a 33% increase. So it's either the atmosphere or the healthiness in the building. The building itself uses 20% less energy to heat and air condition it during the year. The roofs and the parking lots are made of reflective materials so the sun doesn't build up and reheat the building. The building itself was built with 50% recyclable materials. This floor that we're standing on is all recycled glass. Buildings like this help our morale in the communities. We have rooms that the community can come and use, which they do a lot for meetings and things. It's led to more interaction between the police department and the community because of this building.
We've really been asking, how do we make residential in Chicago more environmentally friendly and more energy conservation oriented? And so we've done a number of things to help residential projects go green. One of the first things that we did is we did an international design competition and got a number of great proposals, and we built 5 green homes. Green homes for Chicago, we called them. We had open houses. Thousands of people came through them. We built them, and then we sold them as moderate income housing.
This was the most experimental house out of the 5. I can't say I was specifically looking for environmentally friendly home. I kind of fell into green technology. The elements that went into the house were cork floors. The porch is made out of ipe, a fast growth forest wood that can regenerate itself. There are pavers. The water can percolate through. There's a bottle wall, and I think it has 270 plus bottles on it. The sunlight comes through the clerestory windows on the roof and actually hits this back wall, thus heating the bottled water that would then be a passive heating system. I mean, that's the first thing I want to show everybody because their jaw just drops.
I think the Factor 10 house is important. Green buildings don't necessarily have to shout at you and say, I am green. Green can simply be layered into other elements of design and integrated with them in a way that's sympathetic to existing neighborhoods and the way that, just the way that people live.
With the first couple of pilot projects, that really showed us how to do this and really got our education of our project managers up to speed. And then the mayor went out and launched the program for citywide. We've done a lot on our own projects and then have created policies and programs to ensure that the private sector are implementing green building strategies as well. So we're seeing Target stores are now doing it, Home Depots, McDonald's has a green roof, Apple, the Apple store downtown has a green roof. So we're seeing a lot of exciting commercial projects going for LEED certification.
Those are green Band-Aids. I mean, those are not, those things are good to an extent, but they're not the whole ball of wax. And I mean, I think it's incredibly ironic to have, a green roof on top of a McDonald's, which is really about the drive-in culture. I mean, that's the ultimate contradiction. It's like putting a piece of lettuce on top of a bacon double cheeseburger and saying that it's going to, help you control calories. That's baloney. All the green buildings in the world aren't going to amount to a hill of beans unless we adopt a green way of life.
A way of life that includes not only a great public transportation system, but alternative methods of transportation that further promote engaging in sustainable culture.
The bike infrastructure here in Chicago is something we've really focused on. We have 10,000 bike racks in the city, more than any other city in the country. We've got a bike commuter station with 300 indoor air-conditioned heated bike parking spaces with a cafe and bike repair and bike rentals and showers and lockers. So really building the infrastructure and making it easier for people to make the environmental choices is a critical part of further implementing environmental strategies.
It might have started off as plantings on the streets or planters or new trees being planted, which is obviously needed in every city. But then it became much bigger than that.
most people expect a city to be steel and concrete and dirty and no benefit to the environment, and to maybe work there and get out as quickly as possible. And so I always believe that nature can coexist with an urban community like ours.
You know, the joke was that he was kind of Martha Stewart in the mayor's office. He was just, doing civic decorating. But he evolved, and over time, and, he is pursuing more sophisticated green policies now.
As cities grow, populations increase and resources diminish. What is it we ask of our leaders? What do they ask of us? And most importantly, what do we ask of ourselves?
I would hope that green is mainstream in 10 years. That means when you're going to construct a building, when you're going to remodel, you're concerned about the quality of air in a building, concerned about what type of material they're using in a building. And so to me, that requires all of us to really make a commitment.
When you're in Chicago, you have to ask yourself, can you have a green city without an enlightened dictator? That top-down approach has clearly resulted in a more green city. But one can certainly ask whether it's had a salubrious effect on the body politic, and one could argue that it has not.
A lot of what happens in sustainable culture is somebody taking the lead and somebody making leaps that aren't expected and somebody saying that this has to be done.
People ask us, can we afford to build green buildings? And our response is, can we afford to not build green buildings? I'm certainly daunted by the condition that the planet is in, but I'm extremely optimistic about what we can do. You look at the Industrial Revolution, what we've done just over years, how when we as a species group together to have an impact, we can do it.
For more information on this series, go to pbs.org. To order the 6-part DVD of Design E2, call PBS Home Video at 1-800-PLAY-PBS.